Hi, my name is Frank Washcook. I'm the news editor of PR Week, and I'm here with Aaron Kwittken. He is the managing partner and CEO of Kwittken+Company. Aaron, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So a few weeks ago, Facebook, of course, had its IPO, rated as a debacle by a lot of people now. And there's a lot of blame to go around between Morgan Stanley, Facebook, NASDAQ, all the
people who bought the stock, maybe?
Yeah, them too.
Yeah.
but that being said, just thinking specifically about Morgan Stanley,
right.
What do they have to do to prove themselves trustworthy to consumers and other target audiences at this point?
Well, I don't know if we can think specifically about Morgan Stanley, because it could be that Facebook was an IPO that was too big to succeed to begin with, right? So you could have put almost any investment bank as lead underwriter in that spot, and they might have faced the same fate. And the reason why is because, you know, investment banks in general, and iBanker CEOs specifically, are still been demonized, you know, by the industry, right? The issue with Morgan Stanley, though, which is interesting and is also representative of the industry, is that there is this nuance that hasn't been communicated yet. You can operate 100% within the rules, but that 100% is not understood by the general investing public, especially when there's allegations of selective disclosure pre-IPO, right before the IPO, where the 1% are advantaged over the 99%, allegedly. So those are the perceptions of illegitimacy around the IPO. So Morgan Stanley has to educate around that process, but they also are going to have to discuss openly the issue around fairness, and that might be an issue with the regulators. So it's just the Washington versus Wall Street debate all over again.
Right, and it's a really complicated topic. I mean, it almost seems like you need a specific college degree to understand what they're talking about.
I think MBAs probably don't even really understand all this, right?
Well, then how do they boil that down to a language that's simple to understand for consumers and other groups that are affected by this?
Well, I don't think they can do it alone. So specifically, Morgan Stanley needs Facebook to help with that. Okay. And the thing that's so striking is that for a company that has been founded on openness and connectedness, they are the least open and connected than any social media, let alone anti-social media company that's out there.
Right.
So they need to be far more open with their IR and PR. They have a top-notch IR and PR team. They just hired Joe Lockhart not long ago, about a year ago, former White House press secretary under Clinton. They need to step out in front. They need to talk about their business model. They need to talk about the process itself. Why they're absent and why they're playing this silent giant role is unconscionable. I'm not really sure how they're going to continue to operate this way. In many ways, I heard someone tell me the other day, they really need to grow up like Google has. Even though they're only 8 years old, Google had to go through the same thing.
Right. So what are the lessons here for the next IPO? If you are the next big tech company that's about to go public, whether you're on NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange, is there a big lesson that comes out of Facebook?
Well, let's talk about a small IPO, because I don't think we'll ever see one as big, but I think the lessons are the same. So Kayak. Okay. Now, you know, some people are saying Kayak delayed because the markets weren't favorable. Maybe because they are a Morgan Stanley client. Maybe, but unlikely. The truth is they don't have a CFO. You can't go public if you don't have a CFO. So it's just another interesting twist and distortion through media if PR is not properly handled. So let's just say you're Kayak. Let's say the markets are better. Let's say this IPO-mageddon has kind of faded. We're past that, right? Let's just hope. Let's say it's 6 months from now. I think it's all about expectation management. It's about being extremely transparent with regards to disclosure of information. I think what you might have is what happened with LinkedIn, which is an underestimation of performance. Right. Therefore, the value comes in later. But I think you're going to have a lot of folks and a lot of analysts, along with the PR people amplifying what the analysts are saying, probably downplay the performance only to have the upside seen later on in the marketplace. But transparency is incredibly important. So
theoretically the opposite almost of what we saw with the Facebook IPO in terms of undervaluing.
Absolutely. And hopefully, unlike Facebook, the next company that goes IPO that has some notoriety, they're going to be far more open. You know, once you go public, you can be public. You can actually start communicating, right? You have to behave like a public company. Still, to this date, today's June 4th, we still have not heard from Facebook's management. Right. Not Sandberg, not Zuckerberg. I don't know who's out there, but somebody needs to step up and speak.
Yeah, so another big communications topic involving the financial sector is how Mitt Romney's been getting beat up for his involvement, for his management of Bain Capital years ago, and private equity specifically has been taking a beating.
Sure.
Is there something that industry as a whole should be doing to get ahead of the campaign attack, so to speak?
Well, I think they suffer in some ways the same disease or same fate of misunderstanding as the general investment banking industry and financial services industry. So the political sides aside, right? It doesn't matter where you stand politically. The truth is that the general public doesn't fully understand what private equity does, the role that it provides, the value that it could provide into the marketplace.
Right.
So on the one hand, on the left, you have the Democrats taking advantage of that quite brilliantly, really, saying these guys are just more vulture capitalists, and if we elect Mitt Romney, you're putting a vulture capitalist in the White House. You know, he doesn't create jobs, he destroys jobs, right? But the flip side to that, which seems to not really be well represented right now in the media, is that private equity actually saves more jobs by shedding a few, because what they're doing is they're restructuring companies that most likely would have gone out of business to begin with. Not always, but that's mostly the case. So the left seems to be winning because they're taking advantage of this populist backlash against financial services companies, vulture capitalists. The right, and call it Bain, call it private equity in general, they're kind of getting painted and tainted with this brush of evil and job destroyers, not job creators. And they need to vet out and explain how private equity actually adds value to the marketplace.
Is that tough for them now, because unemployment's up to 8.2% again? Is it difficult to be the side with money, for lack of a better term, when unemployment is so high and you have to defend yourself? I mean, it seems like the environment is really tough for them.
I think it's tough, except for the fact that they probably have a lot of examples to point to, and their best defense is a very strong offense with regards to storied companies that are able to turn around, transform, restructure, take back into the public market again, and create jobs. And they have lots of those examples. They just need to pull from them and draw from them.
Right, like Staples is the one that the Romney campaign keeps citing.
Right.
Okay, Aaron, thanks again for joining us. Again, this is Frank Washcook. I'm the news editor of PR Week, and I'm here with Aaron Kwittken. He's the managing partner and CEO of Kwittken+Company. Thanks again.
Sure, pleasure.